Hi there everyone, Scapegoat Stephen back with something just a little bit different today. So I had a go with GodTear, so that's Steamforge Games' new licensed product, no not licensed product, sorry, their own IP. It's a hex-based game, skirmish involving a number of champions in opposing warbands trying to score objectives. Reasonably simple premise. Very similar, I guess, in design with the whole hexes to something perhaps a bit like Shadespire or Riot Quest, perhaps that's just come out from Privateer Press. This was kickstarted quite a while ago actually, and it's finally starting to hit retail, as with all things Kickstarter. The video, that's being played while I talk is just my first game that I had the other evening at club, just to try it out. First impressions, wow. Like, massively enjoyed it, so much so I went out and bought a load of champions already for it, and I'm really looking to dig a little bit further into this game. This is the basic mission as well that we're playing. It's the suggested first mission for life, and that's me on the right. So with these different champions, so the colours at the moment, because we haven't got around to painting the models because they're all relatively new, represent 4 different classes that you have access to. So the yellow are Maelstrom, they're all about killing opposing followers. The green are Shapers, they're all about buffs and debuffs and planting banners, excuse someone from my club being an idiot. The red ones are Slayers, they are all about killing opposing champions. And one thing we don't have any of in this current battle is a blue Guardian. Now Guardians are all about planting banners and then defending them. So relatively simple premise, 4 classes, no factions. That is one of the things that I really like about this game. You literally just go, where's the roster of champions, grab me 3, let's roll. So I actually went with the 3 that I thought looked the coolest at this stage. So my green Shaper is Wraith Merid, and he's like a giant water lizard. I've got the yellow who is Blackjaw, he's just a big giant buff orc, and he likes killing people. And the red one I've got is called Sneaky Pete, nice name there. He's basically a goblin that shanks people, is probably the best way of describing what he does. So I went with the 3 that I like the sound of from a purely and the models, you know, from an aesthetic perspective. I went, you know what, let's give them a go, let's see how they pan out in the game. Doesn't matter, first game. Thoroughly enjoyed it, absolutely enjoyed it. Like I said, thrown a lot more money already at some new champions just because I want to have a diverse roster. I believe at this point in time there are 15 champions, although the 3rd wave hasn't actually come out to retail yet, so I think there's 12 you can get hold of right now, providing I'm correct with that. One of the really interesting mechanics I like about this game is there are 2 phases. So you have something called the plot phase and the clash phase. So the way that works is that you start in the plot phase, and the person with initiative does everything of their side, their factions, goes through everything, does all their abilities. You get 2 abilities per turn, either the plot or clash phase. You get 2 choices. Movement is a use of an ability as well, and it can take. There are certain exceptions where some people can get more based on different criteria, and then when you hit into the clash phase, you alternate activation. So, you know, if I've got initiative, I choose someone to activate first, then you choose someone, then I choose someone, then you choose someone. Really interesting mechanic. The idea being that the plot phase is this whole sort of overarching battle planning phase. You know, you're looking at, say, like if you've ever played one of the Total War games, you know, you're overlooking the entire army. And then when you get to the clash phase, you're zooming in onto this one particular small conflict going on, in this case between 3 champions, 3 followers, and they're going at each other, you know, to and fro in ebb and flow of battle. It's really engaging, keeps you going throughout. You know, there's a lot of play counterplay. The board is really small, which is not a negative. You know, we were straight in it in turn 1, and I found that really engaging. Keeps you straight in with the game. There's no sort of hanging back turn 1 or turn 2, you know, before you go in and strike. You score every turn, so each winner, so you can probably see just at the bottom of the screen there's this little coin that's got a 1 on that's moving up and down. So the way that scoring works in GodTear is you achieve points for doing certain things, killing followers, killing champions, planting banners and holding banners. Each of the different classes gives you bonus points in certain areas. So as we talked earlier, Shapers, the greens, they get extra points for planting a banner. The blue Guardians, that we haven't got any on this battlefield, get extra points for keeping the banner at the end of the turn, so providing your opponent doesn't destroy the banner or stomp the banner, depending on how you want to phrase it. Maelstroms, the yellows, get extra points for destroying enemy followers, and Slayers get extra points for destroying enemy champions. So the way the battle ladder works is you go up and down depending on how many points you score. You know, it pulls towards you, pulls towards the opponent. So it's like a little tug of war going on, which I really liked. And then when you reach the end of the turn and figure out who wins that specific turn, you get that counter to go on your side. Now, each turn is worth the number of points the turn is. So turn 1 is worth 1 point, turn 2, 2, 3, 3, so on. And it's first to 5 points, 6 points. That's really bad, I can't remember that, but again, first game, this is just really quick first impressions. So it's first to 5 or 6 points, and it means it keeps you in that game, that to and fro. It means if you lose turn 1 and 2, it doesn't matter, because actually you could come back in turn 3 and win turn 3. You know, I really enjoyed that aspect of it, the fact that we were all in straight away. It was really important to keep track of where we were on the battle ladder and the points. I really enjoyed what they call the Boon and Blight system, which is like a series of buffs and debuffs. Really basic, but really simple, and I really liked it. So it's easy to grasp. You know, you've got if you get a boon, you add a dice to the next thing that involves that particular boon. So you've got like movement, accuracy, damage, armor, and like your defense, like your ability to dodge. Really nice, really simple. You know, you can add a boon to something that you've already got a blight for, and all it does is cancel out the blight for that particular targeted blight. It's just generally, I had so much fun playing this game. I can't stress that enough. It's as you can see, you know, there's no tape measures, no movement. It's all hex based, which, you know, it means it does sort of straddle that sort of war game, board game. I'll be honest, I haven't played a lot of multiplayer online, sort of things like League of Legends or anything like that, but it gives me that kind of vibe to it to a certain extent. You know, you've got this arena you're in, there are certain things you need to do to win, off you go and do them. So Steamforged themselves have talked about the fact that this game has been, back when they were concepting it, it's been so many different things, so many different ideas that could have been, you know, did they make it a MOBA? Did they make it a board game, an actual full-on war game, you know, a bigger scale game rather than the sort of the skirmish game that it is? I think actually this is a really good product, a really good choice to go with. Yeah, it's not expensive to get into. You know, it's you could argue it's cheaper than your usual board games these days, big board games of this sort of type with models in. So you get everything you need in a starter set. You know, you get the board, you get the dice. You only get 2 champions in a starter set. That's the only thing. You know, generally speaking, the game is played with 3 champions. That's where they sort of aim the balance point to be when Steamforged did the design of it. Which means you do have to buy a starter box and an extra champion if you want everything, and then obviously you can go full hog and buy a load of champions if you want for the diversity and the options. So I can't understate how simple the base idea is, and then how much the sort of, once getting on the table and once exploring those tactical elements of the plot phase and the clash phase, how much depth I think there is to this game as well. So I think we start off with a very, very low skill floor. You know, this was my first game. I read the rulebook once. I looked through like a single video online about how to play, and I was straight in. I think we had minimal rules issues during the game itself that came up. We only had to question one thing. So actually, it was really simple to grasp. This was my opponent's second game, because he did go in on the Kickstarter, which unfortunately I didn't. Kind of wish I had in hindsight, because I would have had more models available to me already. But, you know, that's a money thing at the time. As I said, the price point really isn't too bad. The starter sets, I think, are like £40 RRP. So if you go to a discounter, obviously you can get that get that for less than that. Each individual champion like box is £25 RRP, so again you could potentially find that somewhere else for cheaper. So you could, for less than £70, get yourself 3 champions just as a starting base to go with, or you can just get the base game and just learning one-on-one champions just to see how the game is pretty good value, to be honest, for what it is. £40, you know, it's not it's on par, I feel, with other sort of like boxed games of its type. It's cheaper than a full-on war game, if I'm honest. You know, depending on the war game you play, obviously some skirmish games require less outlay than some of the larger scale army battles, and this is very much a skirmish game, as you can see from what's going on. What we don't have actually, which in hindsight I probably should have put on camera, is we've got these little dashboards that you use for your followers and your champions, and when you finish a phase you just flip the card over ready for the next phase, and they're really nice cards. The artwork on it's brilliant, the colours, it's just the quality that's gone into this product. I know that you might, if you come from a wargaming background, the models perhaps aren't as high quality as you're expecting. I mean, I think that's fair to say. You know, they are sort of like, oh, there's an orc come to say hello. There's, you know, they are like a PVC, I believe, sort of like large manufactured PVC models. You know, they're not like your GW hard plastics. They're not like resins. They're not anything like that. But they are pretty good quality still. I've painted up one of the champions from one of the starter boxes that I'm not using in this particular video, to see how it went. You know, they're not too bad. You know, they're good. They've come out okay. I haven't quite finished them. I'm mostly in the progress of them. And I'm looking at painting up the other champions that I've got at the moment. So overall, you know, I think this is a game that people should definitely give a go. You know, if you've got someone local who can demo to you don't even have to put out a monetary outlay. Go for it. That said, I took a risk when I started buying some models for this, because I've enjoyed Steamforged products in the past. You know, I'm a really big Guild Ball fan, still am, still play Guild Ball quite a lot, but I can see actually that I'm going to enjoy GodTear a lot. You know, like I said, off the back of this first game, I went and bought a load more champions just to see, to get more into it, I think. You know, we've got a couple of people at Club who backed the Kickstarter. We're also looking at the moment, I've just put up an event, so I'm going to actually run a narrative GodTear event at the end of May 30th, in Thanet in Kent. Just a bit of a plug there, because I'm really interested by GodTear as a more narrative campaign-like system, even if it's a campaign in a day. Compared to something like Guild Ball, that I think is definitely more of a tournament war game, skirmish. You know, you've got your measuring, whereas this is hex is it's much easier to carry around, much easier to play. It probably works out as quicker, if I'm honest. This game lasted almost 2 hours, but again, that was because I think me and Michael are, 1, unfamiliar with the game, 2, unfamiliar with the champions themselves. You know, so for us, it was just trying to piece together bits as we went. So actually, I think that time frame isn't like a reflection on how quick the game could be once you're up to speed. I think as a learning game, it's really easy to learn. Like I said earlier, you can pick stuff up so easy. So I suppose we could look at, are there any points at the moment that I consider a negative for the game? It's difficult to, again, one game, the quality of the models, it's not bad. Like, in no way, shape or form is it bad. I think actually, if you compare it to a board game, the models are pretty good. Like, they're probably better than good. You know, I think you're looking on par, if not better, than the board game whose name escapes me, which is really not helpful, is it? Gloomhaven, that's what I was trying to remember. So I think the models are a better quality than Gloomhaven. You know, they're obviously, again, as I said earlier, they're not going to be the same as resins or hard GW plastic, but actually they are fine once you paint them, once you get going. I think they look alright. I think it might be a little bit more difficult to produce like battle reports for. only because once you've painted all the models, it's difficult to necessarily tell which class they belong to from a distance, from like a top-down view like this. So I know for me, I'm going to have to look carefully about if I am going to produce further GodTear content. What does that look like? You know, is it going to be like my Guild Ball videos sped up? I did consider whether or not I actually just throw this video up raw, you know, in addition to this first impression video, just so people can watch it. However, when I went and watched it back myself, there's some ribald language in the background from my club mates, so I thought it would perhaps be a good idea not to put it up there. And we do make a few mistakes, so I think again it's a learning curve. Michael was actually really. I should probably talk about the dice actually. So the dice are obviously they are a D6 system. So I'm just getting some out for myself just to talk through them at the moment. So on the dice you have 2 facings that are completely blank, 3 facings that have a 1 sort of comet symbol on, and 1 face that has a 2 comet symbol on. So the way to actually do things to anyone is, if your opponent has defense 2, let's say I'm rolling 5 of these dice, all I need to get is a total cumulative 2 successes. So I can either roll a 2 or roll a couple of ones, add up to a 2, just don't roll loads of blanks. And then if your opponent has armor 3, when you then roll damage, so say I'm rolling 5 dice, you remove 3 successes. So it's a relatively simple system in that regard. It is intentionally swingy. Now I've heard Steamforged employees say that the swinginess is built in intentionally to give you that more heroic, oh look, you know, this guy went in and he punched that man and smashed this guy, and you know, he had a massive amount of swinginess happening. But that was intentional. That is meant to be there. It's meant to be different to a guaranteed tournament game like Guild Ball, you know, where you can go, you know, this is how I'm going to set my models up, this is what I'm going to expect to get. You know, it's about the Guild Ball has a lot of variation mitigation is probably the best phrase for it, where you're trying to set up confirmed, yes I'll do this, yes I'll be able to do this, it's really successful, etc. GodTear has a little bit less of that because of that slightly swingy nature in places. I don't mind it, I'll be honest. Like, I know there have been times in the past where swinginess has upset me, perhaps in games, because things have gone really badly. I don't think that's so bad in GodTear. I'm specifically thinking of games where you have like a progression system, so Blood Bowl, Necromunda, etc, etc. You know, one bad dice roll can mean a dead player, ganger, whatever. Whereas GodTear doesn't have a progression system except in campaign play, but no one dies permanently. And I think that sorry, I should probably actually touch on that bit. That's a bit that I really enjoy about the game. It's difficult to invalidate a model, you know, an opposing champion, because if you kill them, all that happens is they move backwards 2 squares or forwards. You know, you choose where you push them to, and they then have to sacrifice an action to rally and heal themselves. That's it. You know, but you're straight back in there. And because they only push you 2, you know, again, there's a lot of fighting can continue. If you lose a turn, this is another big thing I really liked. If you lose a turn, you actually then get to place extra objective hexes. That might just be for this particular mission, I'm not sure, I'd have to look into that. But I really found that quite an interesting idea as well. The fact that you can then train, you might be able to see having watched the video, there's a train of objective hexes going back towards my opponent's deployment zone, as Sneaky Pete was getting stuck in there and smashing people. He gave you an idea that actually he was causing problems for my opponent, so my opponent just turtled up a little bit. But again, you can probably see from where all our various champions are right now, you know, Sneaky Pete and Blackjaw are properly almost in his deployment zone, because I just went after Morrigan. You know, I looked at Morrigan and went, you know what, Morrigan very well might be the weak link in this particular team lineup, at least for me. Sneaky Pete has a rare ability about he can actually do damage in the plot phase, whereas most people can only do damage in the clash phase, and the plot phase is all the setting up. So I just went straight in ham with him. He is bit of a dodgy character. So like he's this defense level, like he's like 5s. So actually, if you need to get 5 successes on 6 or 7 dice, that's difficult, unless you get a spike. So the defense and armor system is very similar, I guess, to Guild Ball. It's quick, easy. There's no sort of messing about trying to figure out, oh, did I do this? What result shall I pick? You know, it's well, this is what happens when you hit someone. So yeah, I'm gonna start. I've rambled a bit, but I could probably ramble a little bit more about this game. Like I said, I only played one game and I've enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm going to get a couple more games in today, just to try and again solidify a couple of us who are new to the game, just trying to get 2nd, 3rd, 4th games in, just so that actually we're in a position where we can sort of play a little bit more. And I'm just looking forward to playing more of GodTear. Like, you know, getting down the club, getting more people into it. People actually expressed an interest off the back of how passionate I was after the game was played. You know, I had a couple of people who actually had gone all in on the Kickstarter and were like, oh, I'm not so sure now, not sure I want to play it. You know, thought about selling it, but actually you were so excited about it, maybe I'll give it a go. And then a few other people came and looked at some of the models and went, wow, that's a pretty cool model. You know, the usual sort of thing, aesthetics get people into games, don't they? So yeah, I will leave it there at risk of rambling too much further, and just say GodTear is a great fun game. If you can get a demo, get a demo. I enjoy it massively, and I fully recommend everyone try it. If you don't like it, you don't like it. It's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but at least give it a try, give it a go. You know, play a demo, play a couple of games, see what you feel. So thanks for having a watch, and we'll see you next time.